Let's bring in Steve Farnsworth to the conversation. He is a U.S. political analyst to give us his take on the new Clinton book. And Steve, I want to get your read on the book if you are there.
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. So here we have Hillary Clinton's new book, What Happened? Very simple title here. And your read on it and why she would do this now.
Well, I think that this is the natural outgrowth of these things. Presidential candidates often write books about their experiences. It makes perfect sense. And certainly with respect to Hillary Clinton, when you're looking about the challenges and the difficulties that this campaign faced, they thought they were going to win up until the very night that the election finished. And so it was a huge surprise. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that the Clintons, who very much like being in the public eye and are kind of used to it after decades now, find themselves in this position, writing a book about the election that a lot of people thought they should have won.
And I'm also curious as well how important you think it is for Hillary Clinton to kind of get her perspective out there, Steve. Is this a legacy thing?
Well, it absolutely is. You know, one of the things to remember about Hillary Clinton and the Clintons generally is that they do play a long-term perspective here. You're looking at a situation where they're talking for the history books. It's important to remember, and this is one of the key symbolic issues of the Hillary Clinton campaign, is that this is about creating an environment for a female president. If not Hillary Clinton, then somebody else. And a conversation about what she did well, what she would have done differently, I think can be very useful to future female candidates for president. Her insight is unique. She is the one major party nominee for president who has been female, and her experiences do create opportunities for others to learn from them. And so I tend to think of it as a painful but public-spirited act to actually put this into print this way.
All right, we also want to bring in Republican strategist Cory Crowley, who's joining us as well from our studios in Washington on this book, What Happened? Cory, what do you make of it?
Well, I guess maybe I've got a bit of a different view than Stephen on this. I think it's kind of bitter. I think that it's making a lot of excuses. While she does say obligatorily, I think I was the candidate, it all rests on me. I find it to be the reason that a lot of people who lose a big public election like this wait to say anything in public or to write a book until you just have some distance for the wounds to heal. The book feels too raw, too blamey, and just kind of beneath a major party candidate to me.
Clinton also says, Cory, that the email investigation by the FBI, James Comey, really damaged her campaign. And in retrospect, she feels that she should have been more assertive or more aggressive in pushing back against Comey. That it really, in the end, may have cost her the White House. What's your read on that part?
Well, I think that there might be some truth to that. And the tough part is Comey, of course, as we all know, was between a rock and a hard place. The FBI's typical line is we don't comment on an ongoing investigation. But of course, that makes it sound like Clinton's guilty or at least being investigated. So he went out of his way to do something out of the norm, which was to kind of vindicate her publicly. But then, of course, when those extra emails showed up on Anthony Weiner's laptop, it brought up a lot more questions. And unfortunately, you can't say much other than that's what happens when you associate with the type of people like Anthony Weiner. I mean, the guy's a scumbag.
Steve, you're back as well with us, and I want to get your take. We're looking at some of the footage of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump on the debate stage, and the two of them were going at it. And I'm curious, there are a number of times in the book where Hillary Clinton talks about the body language of Donald Trump. And again, she felt that she was between a rock and a hard place. If she pushed too hard and called him out on that, it might backfire. And again, in retrospect, she feels that maybe she should have been more aggressive on that front as well.
Right, but it's awfully hard to fault someone for those kinds of decisions in the moment. You have 70 million people watching on television. There's nothing higher stakes than a presidential debate. And there is that whole dynamic, I think, of the question of how men who are forceful are seen as tough and women who are forceful are not seen so positively. And so Hillary Clinton had a very difficult environment here, as a lot of female politicians do, in terms of trying to show tough enough that she was up to the job, but not so tough that she necessarily offended people. And so it's a very, very difficult environment here. I do want to say one other thing about the FBI, though. It's important to recognize that although the FBI was very clear with respect to Hillary Clinton and the investigation that was going on at the time. That was something they had promised Congress they would do. There was also, we've since discovered, significant investigations going on involving the Trump campaign, something that the FBI chose not to disclose before the election. And that would have had a significant impact if people had known that both the Clinton campaign and the Trump campaign were being investigated before the election.
Cory, Hillary Clinton also talks about Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, not wanting her to become the leader of the United States. And in one point, she says that Donald Trump wants to be like Vladimir Putin. Do you agree?
Well, I don't know if that's a fair characterization. Again, that kind of goes back to my previous point about the bitterness and why you let a little time pass before writing these types of things so that you talk about them in a way that's a little more dispassionate. But I do think that there was a there, and that's what the FBI is currently still looking into, what several committees in Congress are looking into. And to Stephen's point, this was an election, as almost all Americans knew, between bad and worse. We had two extremely corrupt and disliked candidates on both sides of the aisle. They both, of course, had their own base. But for most of America, this was a walk into the polling place with your nose plugged and vote for what you viewed as the lesser of two evils. And how can you blame people for what they chose? No good choice here.
Cory, Crowley, Steve Farnsworth with the latest on this new book, What Happened?, released today by Hillary Clinton on what went wrong with her presidential campaign. Gentlemen, thanks for this. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks.